වැඩියෙන් භාගයයි කලක් පවතින අලුත් පෙනුමයි.
Tonight, above board, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa reveals intentions to bring the KDU under the UGC. All about the jab. Mobile vaccinations kick off as the World Health Organization highlights risks posed to diabetes patients by COVID-19.
Unfortunately, about 1/2 of them do not know they have diabetes. Type 1 seems to also have a higher risk than type 2.
Dispelled. Energy Minister rejects opposition claims of a fuel shortage.
We have petrol stocks sufficient for 27 days and diesel stocks sufficient for 24 days.
Spanner in the works. Opposition's all-party conference. Here's an ultimatum.
The opposition, when it comes to office, cheats us. Unless there is a clear articulation of the position with regard to the Tamil national question, we will not travel with you hereafter.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Saturday, the 17th of July, 2021.
දසනකාන්තී චූර්ණය සහිත ලීවර් ආයිෂ් දන්තාලේපය දත්වල ඇති ප්‍රශ්න 10ක් වලකයි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanaka. Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today set the record straight about the Kothalavala Defence University bill when the Buddhist Advisory Council met. The head of state said that it is very much the government's intention to bring the university under the supervision of the University Grants Commission. For this purpose, he noted that the University Grants Commission Act will be amended.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today met with the Buddhist Advisory Council at the Presidential Secretariat. During the meeting, he revealed that the University Grants Commission Act will be amended to facilitate the inclusion of the Kothalavala Defence University under the commission.
ඒ වෛද්‍ය පීඨය ආරම්භ කරන අවස්ථාවේදී ඒවකට GM එකයි මෙඩිකල් ඇසෝසියේෂන් එකයි මෙඩිකල් ඇසෝසියේෂන් එකේ එතකොට හිටියේ ප්‍රොෆෙසර් කාලෝ ෆොන්සේකා. ඒ දෙගොල්ලම විරුද්ධ වුණා. මම ඒ දෙගොල්ලම ගෙන්නලා සාකච්ඡා කරලා ඇහුවා මොකක්ද මේ හේතුව කියලා. මූලික හේතුව තමයි දැක්කුවේ ළමයින් බඳවා ගැනීමේදී ඥාතීන්ගේ විශේෂයෙන්ම හමුදාවේ උසස් නිලධාරීන්ගේ ළමයි මේකට සුදුසුකම් නැතුව ඇතුළත් වෙයි කියලා. අපි කිව්වා නෑ රජයේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයට බඳවා ගන්න ඒසෙජ් කෝ එකෙන් ඉතුරු වෙන තැන ඉඳලා අපි පහලට බඳවා ගන්නවා. ඒ කට්ටියගෙන් ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාවට සුදුසුකම් නොලබන අය කවුරු හරි ඉන්නවනම් ඒ අය අපි අහක් කරනවා. මේකට විරෝධය දක්වන සමහර අය කියන දෙයක් තමයි මේක විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිෂන් සභාව යටතට ගේන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. ඇත්තටම ආරක්ෂක අමාත්‍යාංශයටත් අවශ්‍ය මේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයත් විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිෂන් සභාවට ගේන්න කියලා. නමුත් විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිෂන් සභාවේ පනත අනුව මේවා ඒ අයට ගන්න බෑ. ඒක තමයි දැනට පාලි විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නය. ඉතින් අපි විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිෂන් සභාවගේ පනත වෙනස් කරන්නට ක්‍රියා කරගෙන යනවා. මේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයත් එහි අධීක්ෂණය අතට ගේන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා හෙදි අභ්‍යාස විද්‍යාලත් විශ්වවිද්‍යාලවලට පත් කරන්න. ඊළඟට කොකනට් රිසර්ච් ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට්, ටී රිසර්ච් ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් වගේ ඒවා එකාසු කළ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයක් හදන්න. ඒවත් දැනට තියෙන පනත අනුව ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිෂන් සභාව යටතට ගේන්න බෑ. මේවත් ගේන්න එන පුළුවන් විදියට ඒ පනත සංශෝධනය කරනවා. එතකොට මේ සෑම විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයක්ම ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිෂන් සභාවේ අධීක්ෂණය යටතට පත් කරනවා.
අද සේවසකට වැඩි ජනතා විශ්වාසය නව සංයෝගයකින් රයිනෝ රෝෆිං සහ සීලිං ෂීට්.
In the meantime, protests continue over the proposed Kothalavala Defence University bill, with the bill's detractors alleging that it will betray the free education system and pave the way for the militarization of universities. These protests are being held at a time when the country is dealing with a dangerous pandemic, disregarding universally accepted health and safety guidelines put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19.
certain factions including political parties, teachers and students' trade unions in the country protested during the Government of Good Governance, calling for the withdrawal of the proposed Kotalavala University Bill, which was first proposed in 2018. The proposed bill places the management of the Defence University under the Ministry of Defence, with the Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor of the university appointed by the President. The Vice-Chancellor will exclusively be a senior officer of the armed forces. The Vice-Chancellor, according to the bill, shall be a full-time officer of the university and shall be the principal executive and administrative officer and the principal academic officer. The Vice-Chancellor shall, in accordance with the directions lawfully given to him by the Board of Governors, ensure that the provisions of this Act are duly observed when powers are exercised by him. However, the Board of Governors shall be the governing authority of the university. The board shall consist of the Secretary and the Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Defence, the Chief of Defence Staff, the Commander of the Tri-Forces and the Vice-Chancellor of the University, as well as a nominee of the University Grants Commission. This bill was protested from the word go, with its detractors claiming that it could pave the way for privatization of the higher education sector and militarization of universities. Due to widespread protests, the bill was not presented in Parliament during the previous regime. However, with the present government taking up the same bill in Parliament, protesters were quick to launch campaigns against it. Given the pandemic situation in the country, police took measures to arrest the demonstrators for unlawful assembly and for violating quarantine laws. It was led to believe that 14 teachers' unions launched an island-wide strike following the arrests, calling the move unlawful. However, teachers were told that they will be striking over pay-related anomalies. Somehow the teachers' real concern, which was pay issues, was drowned in the process. The arrested unionists were released yesterday after 8 days in quarantine after they tested negative for the virus. And now the issue the teachers actually thought they were protesting about, their salary issues, has come to focus. As the strike continues, teachers continue to draw severe criticism over their withdrawal from the online education process. Parents accuse them of being selfish and playing around with children's lives and of exploiting the pandemic situation to their advantage. Most of the teachers First at 9 spoke to told us under the conditions of anonymity that they don't even have a basic understanding of the Kotalavala Defence University Bill, and their only concern is in fact resolving their salary anomalies. Meanwhile, members of the Jatika Janabalawege also staged a protest in front of the Colombo Fort railway station today against the proposed Kotalavala Defence University Bill.
Big 3.
Now, over 5.4 million people in Sri Lanka have now received at least one dose of a COVID vaccine, with more than 1.6 million having been completely immunised. The walk-in vaccination centres operated by the Tri-Forces continue to be popular among the people, and they have helped immensely in conducting over 200,000 immunisations per day. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization highlights the dangers of COVID-19 poses to the diabetes patients, adding that most of them don't even know they have the illness.
Sri Lanka's vaccination program has seen rapid acceleration in the past week. The President instructed the health authorities to vaccinate all persons above the age of 30 in the Western Province by the end of the month and to immunize the same age group outside the Western Province by September. Given the size of the task, it is just as well that the daily vaccination record was broken 3 days in a row this week, with the highest of 384,763 coming on Wednesday. The walk-in vaccinations have clearly played a part in the high daily vaccination numbers, with the move seeing a great degree of interest from the people. The efficiency with which those centres are operated by Tri-Force personnel have drawn praise from the people. As per the instructions of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, officials also took measures to conduct mobile vaccination services for members of the public who are unable to leave their homes due to illnesses. As such, officials at the Piliyandala Medical Office of Health began the program today. Meanwhile, yesterday health authorities were able to inoculate 244,706 persons with the AstraZeneca, Sinopharm and Pfizer vaccines. By last evening, 5,404,938 persons had been given the first dose of any COVID jab approved for emergency use in the island. From that, 1,646,176 people have received both doses, meaning they are now fully vaccinated. In the meantime, it has been a well-known fact that a majority of COVID-19 related fatalities reported across the world have been among persons who are immunocompromised. This encompasses persons suffering from underlying health conditions such as heart disease, cancer, as well as organ diseases. Also among them is diabetes. And the World Health Organization says that some don't even know that they have the illness, which puts them in harm's way.
Diabetes has been increasingly common in the past 30 years, and there are now more than 400 million people living with diabetes in the world. Unfortunately, about 1/2 of them do not know they have diabetes, they have not been diagnosed. This pandemic has shown that people with diabetes are at higher risk than people without diabetes of having a severe illness, COVID, and also dying of COVID. The two main types of diabetes are type 1 and type 2. Type 2 is much more common. Type 1 seems to also have a higher risk than type 2 of a severe COVID illness and death.
The WHO is of the view that diabetes patients should somehow find ways to stay active amid the pandemic-induced restrictions.
The pandemic and the measures to contain it are quite a challenge for people with diabetes. The mainstone in treatment is physical activity and a healthy diet, and that might not be possible in the pandemic conditions. The people with diabetes have to be creative about how to manage to continue the recommended physical activity and a healthy diet within the constraints posed by the pandemic.
The warning from the WHO as well as from local health authorities is that the pandemic is far from over despite varying levels of vaccination success. In Sri Lanka, that is very much true. The number of new infections confirmed yesterday was 1,517. The Western Province reported the highest with 637 cases. District-wise, 2 of the 3 districts of the Western Province, Colombo and Gampar, topped the list with 252 and 232 infections respectively. 71 imported cases were also reported yesterday from COVID treatment centers. As for today, 980 new cases of the novel coronavirus have been confirmed so far. Meanwhile, the country's recoveries rose by 962 today, taking the overall number of persons to have recovered from the virus to 255,833. In other developments, Chief of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Army Commander General Shavindra Silva announced that several areas in 4 districts have been brought out of isolation. As such, the Madayava village in the Kegol district, the upper division of Matuagalavatta in the Ratnapura district, and the Maruttamunai 3 Gravanildara division in the Ampara district were brought out of isolation today. The areas of Vihara Lane, Vihara Mawata, and Karappa Church Road and the Velamada Paragama area in the Suduhumpala West and East Gravanildara divisions in the Kandy district too were freed from isolation.
Minister of Energy Uday Gammampilla today moved to reject the claims of a fuel shortage in the island. Alleviating any doubts the public may harbour, the minister also rejected the claim that a fuel ship left the island after waiting around for payment.
Ever since the recent fuel price hike, rumours of a fuel shortage have been surfacing time and again. This resulted in long queues outside fuel stations as panic-stricken people rushed to fill up their tanks. Authorities, however, dispel rumours of a possible fuel shortage in the country while calling on the members of the public not to panic buy. But some factions continue to warn people of a possible shortage, giving traction to the claim as they say the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation does not have enough funds to make the necessary purchases. Speaking to First at 9 today, Minister of Energy Uday Gammampilla outright rejected the claim.
They have said that a ship with petroleum cargo have been returned since the corporations failed to make the payment for the cargo. I mentioned with great responsibility that no ship has been returned because of our failure to make the payment. I challenge those people who make this claim to name the ship which has been returned by us because of our failure to make the payment. There was no such ship. Parties with vested interests spread a rumor in social media that there will be a shortage of fuel in near future, and they urge their friends to collect fuel as much as possible since there will be a quota system to be introduced by the government. We reject this baseless and vicious rumor. We have petrol stocks sufficient for 27 days and diesel stocks sufficient for 24 days, including the stocks being unloaded at this moment. We will never hesitate to inform the public that if there is any possible fuel shortage.
We will see you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
ගෙදරකට තේ හදනවා කියන්නේ වෙනම වැඩ. එක එක්කිනාගේ පදම වෙනස්. මැලිබන් තේ ගෙදර පදමට තේ.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, ITEC parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran vows that the Tamil political parties will not work with the opposition since oppositions have continually deceived them when it comes to what he termed the Tamil national question. His views came during an all-party conference of the opposition organised today.
The all-party conference of the opposition was worked off today, organised by the National Movement for Social Justice. Former Speaker of Parliament Karu Jayasuriya and opposition leader Sajith Premadasa chaired the conference, which was attended by leaders as well as representatives from various opposition political parties, including the Samagi Janabalawegaya, Tamil Progressive Alliance and the Tamil National Alliance.
කවුරුත් පිළිගන්නවා ඒ 19 වෙනි සංශෝධනයේ තුල අඩුපාඩු තිබුණා. නමුත් ඒ තුලින් මේ රටේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදය ස්ථාපිත වුණා. කමුනාල්සේලාට පස්සේ ඉපදෙන දරුවන්ගේ මොනුපුරු මිලිටරියන්ගේ අයිති ඒ 20 වෙනි සංශෝධනයෙන් පැහැර ගන්නවා. ඒ අයිතින් නැති වෙනවා.
අද භයංකාර මූල්‍ය අර්බුදේ අපේ රට පාත්‍ර වෙලා විදේශ විනිමය සංචිත අද පහළ වෙලා තියෙනවා. රාජ්‍ය සම්පත් කුණු කොල්ලට විකුණා දමන දේශප්‍රේමීයයි කියන කොට්ටාසයක් අද කටයුතු කරමින් රටට අවශ්‍ය වෙලා තිබෙන්නේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට ප්‍රායෝගික ක්‍රියාත්මක විය යුතු විසඳුම් ලබා දීම. සමගි ජන බලවේගයක් විපක්ෂයේ සෙසු බලවේගයක් නියෝජනය කරමින් සූදානම් අපි ලෑස්ති කළ හැකි කළ යුතු උපරිම කැපකිරීම ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ කරලා.
We will stand for democracy, but we have been found fault by our own constituency. That whilst we stand with the opposition in all of those times, that the opposition, when it comes to office, cheats us. That we are repeatedly cheated. And so, unfortunately, the message I have for today is that unless there is a clear articulation of the position of the National Movement for Social Justice with regard to the Tamil national question of this country, we will not travel with you hereafter. That has to be told openly and told to the Sinhala people.
මේ රටේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නවලට විසඳුම් හොයන්නට නම් අපි ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්ති මාලාවක් ගේන්නට වෙනවා. මේ ආර්ථික වශයෙන්ද සම්බන්ධ වෙන මැතිතුමා කිව්වා වගේ ජනවාර්ගික ප්‍රශ්නවලට අධ්‍යාපනයට.
Now, in other local stories, Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that Sri Lanka's focus will shift towards food security-centric agriculture production and renewable energy in line with the presidential initiative on climate resilience and green economy. Addressing the high-level segment of the UN Economic and Social Council yesterday as it celebrated its 75th anniversary, the minister added that business models to adopt the concept of reduce, reuse and recycle will also be promoted. The high-level segment was titled Strengthening ECOSOC at its 75th anniversary for sustainable and resilient recovery from the COVID-19 and advancing the 2030 agenda.
In line with the presidential initiative on climate resilience and green economy, there will be a shift to a focus towards food security, centric agriculture production, renewable energy, business models to adopt the 3R concept: reduce, reuse and recycle will be promoted towards embedding circularity principle in production processes. To ensure food security and an inclusive, sustainable transformation of the agriculture sector, Sri Lanka decided to discontinue imports of chemical fertilizer with the aim of guaranteeing to all Sri Lankans the right of access to a non-toxic balanced diet. The share of renewable energy will be increased to 70% of Sri Lanka's total energy mix by 2030. Towards this end, 7,000 rural solar power plants and 2 large-scale wind power plants will be built. The government has partnered with telecommunication providers to ensure undisrupted functioning of the education sector. 5 techno parks are being set up across Sri Lanka to assist IT-based business operations. Incentives have been given to improve vocational education. We are also strengthening connectivity through construction of new expressways connecting main cities with the provinces.
Oil declined the most this week since March as a resurgence of COVID-19 threatened the outlook for global fuel consumption in the near term. While futures in New York edged up yesterday, yet settled 3.7% lower this week. The rapidly spreading Delta variant is triggering renewed restrictions on movement as it sweeps across the globe. The UK is considering stricter measures due to a surge in cases. Singapore is shutting hundreds of nightlife venues. And in the US, a mask mandate has been reinstated in Los Angeles County. At the same time, crude markets face the prospect of extra supplies from the OPEC Plus coalition as the UAE and Saudi Arabia repair a rift that has stymied the group's decision-making process. A stronger dollar has also dimmed the appeal of commodities priced in the US currency this week. West Texas Intermediate for August delivery rose 16 cents to settle at $71.81 a barrel. Brent for September settlement added 12 cents to end the session, $73.59 a barrel. The futures are down about 2.6% this week. US stocks fell yesterday to finish the week lower, snapping a 3-week win streak for the major indices, as data showing a fall in consumer sentiment overshadowed an earlier report on a sharp rise in retail prices, while corporate earnings reported, or remained, I should say, mixed. US Federal Reserve Chairman this week again reassured markets that a rise in inflation was likely to be temporary, but higher prices may be behind the fall in consumer sentiment. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 299.17 points to 34,687.85. The S&P 500 index fell 32.87 points to 4,327.16, marking a drop of 0.8%. The Nasdaq, meanwhile, dropped 115.90 points to 14,427.24. For the week, all 3 major US stock benchmarks fell, snapping their 3-week win streaks. The Dow saw a 0.5% weekly decline, while the S&P 500 had a 1% weekly loss, and the Nasdaq fell 1.9% for the week. We will see you shortly. Bear with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, rescue workers searched flood-ravaged parts of western Germany for survivors today as water levels remained high in many towns and houses continued to collapse in the country's worst natural disaster in half a century. At least 133 people have died in the flooding, with police reporting over hundreds of people still missing. As rescuers continue to comb through the destruction, fresh questions are being raised about whether enough early warnings were given to residents in flood zones. The flooding has also hit parts of Belgium and the Netherlands, with at least 20 people being killed in Belgium as well. Now, in sports, a person has tested positive for COVID-19 at the Tokyo Olympics Athletes Village. Now, the confirmation given by the Games organisers today is the first such case and adds to concerns about infections at the Games, which begin next week. Tokyo 2020 CEO Toshiro Muto confirmed that a visitor from abroad who is involved in organising the Games had tested positive. He, however, did not reveal the person's nationality, citing privacy concerns. The Tokyo 2020 Olympics, postponed for a year due to the global pandemic, is being held mostly without spectators and under tight quarantine rules. Athletes are just starting to arrive for the Games, which run from the 23rd of July through to the 8th of August. Japan's public have been lukewarm about the Games amid a resurgence in new coronavirus infections and worries that an influx of foreign visitors may help turn the Tokyo Olympics into a super spreader event, which in turn could put further strain on Japan's already stretched medical system. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.